For 10 years, I dreamed about the same man's face. I'd never met him in real life. I didn't know his name, where he lived, or if he even existed. But I painted him hundreds of times. I painted him in oils and watercolors and charcoal. I painted him sad, laughing, lost in thought. I became obsessed with capturing something I couldn't explain, a face that felt more real to me than my own reflection. My friends thought I was creating some artistic metaphor. My therapist suggested he represented an idealized version of love I was afraid to pursue. But I knew the truth. He was real. He had to be. And somehow, I had to find him. Then one October night, he walked into my art gallery. He looked at my paintings, 47 versions of his own face staring back at him, and went pale. He turned to me with recognition in his eyes and said the words that changed everything. "I've been dreaming about you too." Before we dive in, have you ever felt like you recognize someone you'd never met before? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you love stories about impossible connections, soulmates, and the invisible threads that tie us together, please subscribe so you don't miss our next one. Now let me take you back to the night my entire understanding of reality changed. My name is Daisy Reyes, and at 32 years old, I'd spent a third of my life painting a man I'd never met. It started when I was 22, newly graduated from art school in New York City and freshly returned to my hometown of Austin, Texas. I'd spent 4 years at the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan, learning technique and theory, exhibiting in student shows, living the exhilarating life of a young artist in the city. But after graduation, I'd come home. Austin felt right, the creative energy, the warmth, the slightly slower pace that let me actually think and create rather than just survive. I moved into a small studio apartment in East Austin, set up my easel by the window, and prepared to figure out what kind of artist I wanted to be. That's when the dreams started. The first one came in August, about 2 days after I'd returned to Austin. I woke up with my heart pounding, not from fear, but from the vividness of what I'd just experienced. I dreamed about a man, not someone I knew, not a celebrity or a composite of people I'd met, a specific man with a specific face. He had dark hair that fell slightly across his forehead, eyes that were this unusual gray-green color, like water in shadow, a small scar cutting through his right eyebrow, strong jawline, but a gentleness to his expression that made him seem approachable rather than intimidating. In the dream, we'd been sitting across from each other at a table. We were talking. I could feel the emotion of the conversation, the depth of it. But when I woke up, I couldn't remember a single word. What I remembered was his face perfectly, completely, like I'd known it my entire life. "Weird dream," I said to my empty apartment, and went about my day. But the dream came back, a week later, then 3 days after that. Then again and again with increasing frequency, always the same man, always that face. Sometimes the context changed. We were walking through a park, or he was standing in a doorway, or I was painting while he watched, but the face never varied. It was always exactly the same. After the 5th or 6th dream, I did what I always did when something haunted me. I painted it. I set up a canvas and tried to capture his face from memory. It came icily, too icily. My hand moved with a certainty I'd never felt before, like I was remembering rather than imagining. When I finished, I stepped back and looked at what I'd created. It was him. Exactly him. The man from my dreams, rendered in oils, staring back at me from the canvas with those gray-green eyes. I felt a chill run through me. "Who are you?" I whispered. The painting didn't answer, but the dreams continued. By the end of that first year back in Austin, I'd painted him 17 times. Different mediums, different styles, different expressions, but always the same face. My friends noticed. "Who's the guy?" my roommate asked, gesturing to the canvases lined up against my studio wall. "I don't know. He's from my dreams," she laughed. "That's very poetic. and very weird. Is this like a muse thing? I guess. I just keep seeing his face. It won't leave me alone. Maybe you passed him on the street once and your subconscious latched onto him. Maybe. But I didn't think so. This felt different. This felt like recognition, not random attraction. In 2015, I got accepted to a 2-year artist residency program in Paris. It was a huge opportunity, a chance to study with established artists, to be part of the European art scene, to grow in ways Austin couldn't offer me yet. I left in April with 2 suitcases and a portfolio full of paintings, half of which were of the man from my dreams. Paris was everything I'd hoped for and nothing I'd expected. Beautiful and lonely in equal measure. My French was terrible. I knew no one. I spent my days in the studio and my evenings wandering the city alone, sketching in cafes, trying to find my artistic voice. And still, I dreamed of him. Even across an ocean, even in a completely different life, his face followed me. I painted him in my tiny studio in the 11th arrondissement. I painted him with the Eiffel Tower in the background. I painted him sad, which was how he appeared most often in my dreams during that period, like he was searching for something he couldn't find. I wondered if he could feel me painting him. If somewhere, somehow, he knew someone was dreaming of him. I stayed in Paris for 2 years. They were transformative years. I grew as an artist, learned to be alone without being lonely, developed a style that felt authentically mine. But I was also homesick. I missed Austin. I missed the warmth, the music, the ease of English, the particular quality of Texas light that I'd never found anywhere else. In 2017, I moved back to Austin permanently. I was 25, more confident, more skilled, ready to build a real career. I rented a small house with a backyard I converted into a studio. I started showing my work in local galleries. I taught art classes to pay the bills while I built my reputation, and I continued to paint him. The man whose name I didn't know. The man who'd been appearing in my dreams for 3 years at that point. By 2020, I'd painted him over 100 times. It had become my defining body of work. Critics called it my Unknown Man series. They interpreted it as a meditation on desire, absence, the unattainable. They were wrong, but I let them think what they wanted. The truth was simpler and stranger. I was painting someone I knew I was supposed to find. Someone who existed somewhere. Someone who was waiting, though he didn't know what he was waiting for. The dreams never stopped. Sometimes they were mundane. Him reading a book, drinking coffee, looking out a window. Sometimes they were emotionally intense, him crying, or laughing, or looking at me with an expression of such longing that I'd wake up with tears on my face. I went to therapy. "Tell me about this man you keep dreaming about," my therapist said. "I don't know anything about him except his face. What do you think he represents?" "I don't think he represents anything. I think he's real." She gave me a look of gentle concern. "Daisy, you understand that dreams are manifestations of our subconscious, not prophecies, right?" "I know what dreams usually are. But this is different." She suggested I might be avoiding real relationships by fixating on an impossible ideal. Maybe she was right. I dated occasionally, but nothing ever felt right. Every time I had a dream about that man, it felt like cheating on the person I was with. And honestly, no one ever made me feel the way the man in my dreams did, which was completely insane, because I'd never actually met him. By 2024, I'd been dreaming of him for 10 years. A full decade of my life defined by a face I couldn't escape and wasn't sure I wanted to. I was 32. I'd built a successful career as an artist in Austin. I had gallery representation. I sold paintings for good money. I taught workshops. I had friends, a community, a life I'd built with intention. But there was always this absence, this feeling that I was waiting for someone to arrive. That summer, my gallerist approached me about doing a solo show. I want you to do something bold, she said, something that'll get attention. What's the most honest work you've ever made? I knew immediately. The Unknown Man series. All of it. How many pieces? 47 paintings. 10 years of work. She was quiet for a moment. That's ambitious. And potentially career-defining. Are you ready to be that vulnerable? I thought about it. Putting all those paintings in one room. Admitting publicly that I'd spent a decade painting the same face over and over. Exposing the deepest, strangest part of my creative life. Yes, I said. I'm ready. We scheduled the show for October. I spent the summer preparing selecting pieces, writing artist statements, designing the exhibition layout. The show was called The Man I've Never Met. 47 paintings arranged chronologically, showing the evolution of my technique and my obsession over 10 years. The opening was on a Friday night in mid-October. The gallery was packed friends, collectors, critics, curious strangers. I wore a red dress and spent the evening answering questions about my work. Who is he? Someone asked for the 20th time. I don't know. He's someone I've been dreaming about for 10 years. I've never met him in real life. Is he based on anyone real? I think so. But I don't know who. People found it fascinating, romantic, mysterious. They looked at the paintings with this reverent curiosity, like they were witnessing something sacred. I felt exposed and exhilarated in equal measure. By 9:30, the crowd had thinned. Most people had left. Just a few stragglers finishing their wine and taking last looks at the paintings. I was exhausted, but satisfied. The show had gone well. That's when he walked in. I noticed him immediately, though I was across the room talking to someone. He was alone, wearing jeans and a dark jacket, his hands in his pockets. He had this slightly hesitant quality, like he wasn't sure he belonged there. He stopped at the first painting, one of my earliest attempts, from 2014, a simple portrait in oils. And he just stood there, staring, for what felt like several minutes. Then he moved to the second painting, the third, making his way slowly through the exhibition, stopping at each piece for a long time. I excused myself from my conversation and watched him. There was something about the way he moved, the shape of him, that made my heart start beating faster. He reached the centerpiece of the show, my largest painting, 6 feet by 4 feet, a photorealistic portrait I'd spent 6 months on. It was the most accurate version I'd ever painted. Every detail of his face rendered with obsessive precision. The man stopped. His hands came out of his pockets, trembling slightly. I walked toward him without deciding to. My legs just moved. Are you okay? I asked. He turned to look at me, and the world stopped. Gray-green eyes, dark hair falling across his forehead, the small scar cutting through his right eyebrow. It was him, the face I'd been painting for 10 years, standing in front of me, real, solid, breathing. You, he said, his voice rough with emotion. His face pale. I know you. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Just stared at this impossible person who'd walked out of my dreams and into my gallery. I'm sorry, he said, seeming to realize how strange that sounded. That's not, I mean, he gestured at the paintings, at the 47 versions of his own face surrounding us. This is me. All of these. This is my face. I know, I managed to whisper. How? How do you know my face? Have we met before? No, I've never seen you before in my life, except in my dreams. He looked at me with an expression I recognized from my paintings, wonder mixed with disbelief, mixed with something like relief. That's not a pickup line. I rushed to defend myself. He gave a brief smirk, but soon returned to his haunted expression. What's your name? He asked. Daisy. Daisy Reyes. I'm Jessie. Jessie Bowell. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that was so familiar I felt dizzy. Daisy, I have been dreaming about you for 10 years. The room spun. I reached out to steady myself on the wall. What? Your face, your eyes, this shade of caramel. And this dress. I've dreamed about you in this dress, just last night. I've seen you in my dreams hundreds of times. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought you were just some ideal woman my subconscious created. But you're real. You're standing here. And you've been painting me. For 10 years, I said. Since I was 22. You started appearing in my dreams, and I couldn't stop painting you. I was 24 when you first appeared in mine. I'm 34 now. We stared at each other, trying to process the impossibility of what we were experiencing. I need to sit down, I said. Me too. We left the gallery, I told my gallerist. I was leaving with someone and not to worry, and walked to a 24-hour coffee shop a few blocks away. It was nearly empty, just us and a tired barista and one person with a laptop in the corner. We sat in a booth in the back and looked at each other across the table, exactly like in so many of my dreams. Tell me about your dreams, Jessie said. What did you see? You. Always you. Sometimes we were talking, but I could never remember what we said. Sometimes you were alone and I was just watching you. Sometimes you seemed sad. The dreams were so vivid, I could paint you perfectly from memory. Mine too. I'm an architect. I also draw things for a living, but I could never draw you quite right. I didn't have the skill, but I remembered your face perfectly. I've been seeing you for 10 years. When did it start? What month? August 2014. I remember because it was right after I finished a major project and had some time off. The dreams just started. What about you? August 2014. Right after I moved back to Austin from New York. We were quiet, letting that settle, the same time. 10 years ago. Have you always lived in Austin? I asked. My whole life. I went to UT Austin, so I've basically never left. You? I grew up here. Left for art school in New York in 2010. Came back in 2014. Then, I lived in Paris from 2015 to 2017, but I've been here permanently since then. Jessie's face changed. Paris. When in 2015? I moved there in April, stayed for 2 years. Why? In 2015, in the spring, I had this overwhelming urge to go to Paris. It came out of nowhere. I don't speak French. I was not in love. I had no professional reason to go. Besides admiring the art and architecture, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. I almost bought a plane ticket 3 or 4 times. My friends kept telling me to just do it, but something stopped me. I can't explain what. It just felt like it wasn't the right time. My hands were shaking. If you'd come, I would have found you. Or not, it's a bigger city than this one. And I was 25, still figuring out my career. Fresh out of a bad relationship. Were you ready at 23? I thought about those lonely Paris years, about how lost I'd been, how much growing I'd needed to do. No, I wasn't. I was barely keeping myself together. So maybe that's why. Maybe something kept us apart until we were ready to actually meet, or maybe it's all just coincidence and we're reading meaning into randomness. Jessie smiled, a smile I recognized from 100 paintings. You don't believe that? No, I don't. We talked until 4 in the morning. Not about the dreams at first, but about our lives. Our childhoods, both in Austin. Our families. The paths that had brought us to this moment. Jesse was an architect specializing in sustainable residential design. His last serious relationship had ended 3 years ago. He loved running, cooking, old movies. He was close with his sister. He'd lost his father young and still felt that absence. I told him about art school, about Paris, about the struggle to build a career doing what I loved, about teaching workshops, about the loneliness of creative work, about never quite finding someone who understood the way I moved through the world. I dated, I said, but it never felt right. Everyone seemed disappointed that I wasn't who they thought I'd be. Or I was disappointed. Nothing ever clicked. Same. I'd meet someone, we'd date for a few months, and then it would just fizzle. They'd say I seemed distracted, emotionally unavailable. Maybe I was waiting for someone without knowing what I was waiting for. Do you think we're soulmates? I asked. Do you believe in that? Jesse thought about it. I didn't. But I've been dreaming about you for 10 years, Daisy. And now you're sitting across from me, and it feels like coming home. So maybe I believe it now. I've painted you 473 times. I counted. That's not a normal amount of paintings of one subject. That's obsession. That's something deeper. Or we're both just really stubborn artists who fixated on an impossible ideal. I smiled. You think that's what this is? No. But I'm trying to give us an out if we need it. If this is too strange or too much, it is strange and too much, but I don't want an out. I've spent 10 years painting you. I want to spend time knowing you. I want that too. The coffee shop closed at 5. We walked out into the warm Austin dawn, the sky just starting to lighten. Can I see you again? Jesse asked. Tomorrow? Today? Whatever day this is? Today? Lunch? Yes. He walked me to my car. We stood there awkwardly, two people who'd known each other in dreams, but were strangers in reality. Thank you for coming to the exposition, I said. I almost didn't. I was driving home from a work dinner and I saw the sign for your show. Something made me turn around and go in. I didn't even look up what the show was about. I just walked in and you saw your own face staring back at you from 47 paintings. It was the strangest moment of my life, terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Like finding proof that I wasn't crazy, that you were real. I'm real, I know. Now I know. Over the next several weeks, we saw each other constantly. Coffee dates that turned into dinners. Dinners that turned into long walks around Austin. Walks that turned into me showing him my studio. Him showing me his architectural models. We compared our lives and discovered the near misses. The times we'd almost met but hadn't. I went to a show at the Contemporary Austin in 2019, Jesse said one evening. 3rd floor gallery. I had a piece in a group show on the 2nd floor that same month. I was there for the opening. I went to that opening. I remember because I ran into a college friend and we got drinks after. I left early because I wasn't feeling well. If I'd stayed another hour. South by Southwest 2014, I said. I was there volunteering at an art installation. I was there. I went to see bands every night that week. We were probably in the same crowds. Ladybird Lake Trail during the pandemic. I walked there every afternoon. I ran there every morning. 6 a.m., I went at 3 p.m. We'd been orbiting each other for a decade. Same city, same creative community, same spaces. But our paths had never quite crossed until they did. Until Jesse walked into a gallery on a random Friday night and saw himself reflected in my paintings. Until the universe or fate or whatever invisible force had been pulling us together finally succeeded. The dreams stopped for both of us. Completely. The night we met was the last time either of us dreamed of the other. It's like we were calling to each other, Jesse said one night. Lying next to me in my bed, the Austin moonlight coming through the window, across the city, across an ocean when you were in Paris. We were trying to find each other in the only way we could through dreams, and now we don't need to anymore. Do you miss them? The dreams? No, because I have you here. Real. I spent 10 years painting your face. I don't need to paint it anymore. I'd rather just look at you. He smiled and kissed me. I still can't believe this is real. That you're real. I'm real. And I'm not going anywhere. 6 months later, we moved in together. A house in East Austin with good light for painting and enough space for Jesse's drafting table. It felt easy in a way relationships had never felt easy for me before. Like we'd skipped all the hard parts of getting to know each other because we'd already spent 10 years doing it in our sleep. We still discovered new things about each other daily, but the foundation was already there, the recognition, the certainty that we were meant to find each other. I don't know why we dreamed of each other for 10 years before we met. I don't know if it was some kind of psychic connection or premonition. You can call it what you want. I don't know why we passed each other dozens of times in Austin without ever making eye contact. What I know is this: some people are meant to find each other, and sometimes it takes years before the timing is finally right. The dreams brought us together, but it's the waking life, the real, messy, beautiful, everyday existence we share now that makes me grateful I waited, that I never stopped painting his face, that I believed, even when it seemed impossible, that somewhere out there was someone dreaming of me too. 10 years of dreams, and now a lifetime of reality. With the man whose face I painted before I ever knew his name. Have you ever felt like you recognized someone you'd never met before? Share your story in the comments below. If this story about impossible connections, soulmates, and the invisible threads that tie us together touched your heart, please hit that litter button and subscribe for more meaningful stories every day. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss our next thought-provoking tale. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.